Hello, everybody. It's 1 o'clock, and we don't have a chair for this committee. So we have two options. We can do the roll call, and then the committee can appoint a chair pro tem, or Todd or Tony can take over. I don't have a preference.
Stoyan, this is Todd. Was I correct yesterday that Tony would be the vice chair? Is that a position we have in the BFP?
Well, we officially don't have a vice chair, but if Tony is here, then he can take over. He's the council chair anyway. But I don't see him though.
I don't see him in the room as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's do the roll call then, and we'll see who is here and who is not. Todd, I will propose you if the committee members are okay with that.
Sure.
All right, starting with the roll call. First, we'll start off with Tony Doan, Todd Bayreuther,
Here.
Micah Chappelle,
I'm here. I just got to get the right button.
and for Damon Doyle and Roger Herringo. So we've got 2 out of the 5 active seats we have, so no quorum at the moment.
Okay. Well, we might not be able to even kick this off then, huh?
Unfortunately, it appears this way. Well, we can take 5 minutes break, 10 minutes break, and wait if somebody shows up.
Yeah, I think we should do that. Do you want a motion to do that, or I guess we can't take a motion? So I guess we're just gonna be in limbo here for, what should we say?
Yeah, I'll take the risk here, and I'll ask for 10 minutes technical break.
Let's do that. Okay.
We'll be back in 8 minutes. We'll be back in 10 minutes after 1.
Okay.
Stoyan, huh?
I don't see anybody else either. So Dustin, can you, just in case to make it official, try the roll call again? You're muted.
All right, with the roll call once again, Tony Doan, Todd Bayreuther,
Here.
Micah Chappelle,
Present.
Damon Doyle, and Roger Herringo. And I don't see any of those names in our party list, and so
Okay, so we don't have a quorum. We can't make decisions. If you want to have the discussion, any discussion, we're available. If not, we will add the agenda items today to the agenda for the council meeting next week.
Stoyan, is there anything where we would have to or want to call a tag meeting before the council meeting? But go ahead, Micah. I'm sorry. I guess I'm running this, not officially running this meeting, but just go ahead. You raised your hand.
No, you're fine. You can have Stoyan answer that question, and then I'll provide some input as well.
If we don't have the BFP committee, we have a little bit of a conflict between. I'm talking about the R4 adoption. We have a little bit of a conflict between what the IBC Technical Advisory Group recommended and what the Fire Code Technical Advisory Group recommended. Actually, the recommendation, Micah, correct me if I'm wrong, the recommendation from the IFC Technical Advisory Group was to ask the BFP committee to take a position pertaining to the conflict and recommend one of these two. So we have an option for next Wednesday. If we can have a joint meeting between the building code tag and the fire code tag, so we can end up with a decision, both technical advisory groups. Again, that what I'm saying is I'm just sharing a personal opinion how we can do it.
Yeah, you're correct on that. We had a request at the fire code tag to have the BFP make a determination. I personally would be fine having some discussion today, even if we don't take votes. I know there's still some outstanding items. I was not aware that we were going to have the family home child care discussion today. I thought that had to come back to the IRC tag based on some additional information we had with that combined kind of IRC IFC tag previously, and we were waiting to schedule that. So maybe we can have some of that discussion today, but I have no problem having discussion. But again, you know, if we can't vote on anything, I don't think that we should move all this to the council without having a BFP discussion, considering there's still outstanding items. Thanks.
Just to add some clarity to the agenda, we have the childcare here, and we have modifications to 2021 fire code that Ken Brulette proposed. We weren't planning to ask for a decision. We were just we're trying to share some information where we are in the process. So it's a very basic information, not to get into the details there.
Perfect. That was it. I mean, it showed public comment committee action, so I just wanted to clarify on that. So that's helpful. Thanks, Dorian.
For the BFP committee, for the I'm sorry, Micah. For the BFP committee, this year we're trying to have the BFP committee a week before the council meeting, because if decisions are made at the meeting, then the council staff has time to make changes to the agenda and prepare documents. So this is why we're having it now. Again, I can offer joint meeting for the IBC and IFC technical advisory group on Wednesday.
So yeah, I guess as chair as the IBC, I'd be fine with that. Yeah, I know it's you know, it's an ask, of course, of the tag members, but since there was a proposed amendment to the IFC tag, I think it'd be appropriate in lieu of BFP meeting today.
Micah, are you?
You know what? I can wait. I was going to ask if we wanted to have some possible public input or other stakeholders that are on this meeting to possibly testify on something or provide opinion on maybe what they'd like to do as well. Because again, we've already scheduled folks' time out and they're here. So I see another hand up in a couple.
I don't know who the chair is. How do I get formally recognized?
There is a hand raised. I can't see the name though.
Santa Topa?
Yes, that's me. Hello. I am a family home provider, and I came on here to hear more information about what was being discussed. Are we able to get clarification or any of that information that was put out for you guys?
We can provide some basic information, as I said. If this is what you're asking for, we can share what we're doing and where we are in the process. Do you think this will be helpful?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let's hear Ardell, and then Dustin can talk a little bit about the child care.
Well, mine would be about the R4, so I'm going to go ahead and defer to Fanta. I'm sorry if I got your pronunciation wrong on the childcare. So do you want to proceed through the agenda and allow the public to speak on those items if they are here, or address each issue just sort of as an overview for any public comment today without vote?
My approach here, and again, I'm sharing personal opinion. It's good to hear everybody, but we don't have all BFP members. We don't have all Fire Code Technical Advisory Group members, and we don't have all IBC Technical Advisory Group members. So I'm not against the discussion. I can stay all day and all night long. I don't know if we will.
I don't
benefit.
need to go into a full discussion, but I think it's fine if you want to go to the family home childcare, and then I just have one sort of comment to make to make on the R4. It doesn't have to be a full discussion though, Stoyan. I understand the limits of who's present.
I'm okay either way. Dustin, can you share a little bit about where we are on the childcare?
Yes. So we've been talking about a potential, well, I guess let's back up just a little bit to talk about what is before we're talking about what we're trying to do and discussing. In 2020 and 2019, COVID hit us. It closed a lot of public daycares and made it so a lot of the childcare within the state is happening in private residences. There was legislation passed down through the Department of Children, Youth, and Family that allowed them in their licensing operation to issue a waiver to their licensing cap of 12 children, which is that cap of 12 is in alignment with our building code as it stands today. So their waiver did not have a cap on the number of children, or, you know, really if you go above that, then the providers are finding themselves having to do a change of use to their occupancy of their residential buildings to be to potentially group E or I occupancies to comply with the building code requirements of commercial standards. The goal of the work group has been to discuss a increase to that number and a change in the building code to justify that increase. Fanta, I was curious if you had like a specific question or concern you would like me to maybe speak more specifically to. And I can tell you we're like right now we're still in the process of developing a proposal language to submit for review of the council.
I didn't have a specific question. You just touched on it. I just wanted to know what information was passed down to you guys and where you are. And so I am one of the 78 providers in the state that was afforded an overcapacity waiver. So I am affected by these changes tremendously. So I have an investment in wanting to know what's going on and how we can make this more available for those who already have it in place without having to go through those extra strains that have been placed upon us.
Gotcha. So with the overcapacity waiver, like I mentioned before, there was no cap on the number of children allowed within a home. There are some requirements that the DCYF has for the number of children and area allowed. So, you know, depending on age groups and numbers of children, you have increased requirements for supervisors to be on site. You know, I'm not the most familiar with their particular requirements, but one of the big things was establishing a cap for that number before you have to go to the International Building Code. And it was proposed to be 18 originally. Right now that number is sitting more comfortably at 16. And so I'm not sure what kind of waiver you've had issued, but the potential right now is if you have more than 16, the most appropriate thing would be to go to your building department and talk about a change of use permit for your residence to comply with a commercial code rather than a residential code. And you know, we talked about the 18 and 16 is a number that our building code technical advisory group and the fire code technical advisory group are more comfortable with. And even that they are hesitant to do without requiring a sprinkler system in the residence. And so, you know, one of the main goals is like, how do we allow more children within a residence and also increase safety at a lower cost to the constituents who are trying to run this type of operation. And that's kind of, you know, in a nutshell where we're at. And if you had any other questions, I'd be happy to chat with you. And I can get out my contact information for you if you like, and I can provide some of the documents that we are working with, but they're all draft documents at the moment.
Yes, please. I would appreciate that. I just have a concern for all of us that already have these waivers in place. Will we be getting a timeline if things were approved to be capped at, to be able to address displacing those families that we have in care? So there's a whole ripple effect of how that's going to affect all these waivers.
Right. I would say without having a representative from DCYF here to maybe talk about what the repercussions are for the licensing, I'd say that the enforcement of some of this requirements that we've been talking about will come down to local jurisdictions and their code enforcement departments. And as far as the licensing goes, you know, the worst case scenario is there might be some rescinding of licenses or those overcapacity waivers. But we could potentially talk about what remediations might be available for folks who already have these waivers in place. I'll put up my email address and phone number on the screen, and if you want to shoot me an email, we can open the discussion.
Thank you.
Micah?
Thanks, Justin, for that info. I do want to add to the history a little bit to make sure that folks are aware that Washington State has actually modified the allowable number of these individuals in a residential home already. When we say 12, which is the current code allowance in the residential code before you're triggered to go into the building code, the national level code, which is most other states, only allows 5. Once you hit 6 individuals or 6 children, then you're required to comply with the building code. So we already increased our threshold significantly, obviously more than double than what the national standard is. So I know there are some questions about whether or not we want to increase that further and what those safety measures look like for allowing the additional increase even farther beyond what we already allow in the state of Washington to move this forward. So I appreciate Dustin's info. I just want to let folks know that that may be new to the call or new to the process here. Appreciate it, Dustin. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mike.
Just to add a little bit, that this is a work in progress. So no decision has been made yet. This is discussing different options, and when we start working on this with the technical advisory groups, it's a open public process, and everybody will be allowed to testify and provide additional information. Ordell, your turn.
Thank you. Sorry, I was taking notes. So I just wanted to comment. It was not familiar with sort of the role of the BFP in this vetting process. And so there was a concern that I raised at a couple of the meetings around whether an R4 residential treatment facility is considered a dwelling unit. And the impacts are significant in the enforcement. And so when I raised the concern at the tags, it sounded like that was being pushed to the BFP or the full council for further discussion or review. But what I would like to encourage is and I can bring this up again if there's a meeting next week for the tags, is to evaluate that issue further, because the fallout of that is, do you adopt the R4 right now as the language per the base code without that clarification? And if you don't have that clarification, who does that fall to? It falls to the building officials. And I think that becomes another sort of grounds for inconsistent enforcement across the state. So if they're dwelling units, then you don't have residential corridor construction within the unit. If they're not dwelling units, if they are sleeping units, then you have rated construction for the corridors, and you have an issue of whether the kitchen and living room can be open to it. So while I do think that the base code language is clean, you could just go with that. I do think that it could result in inconsistent enforcement if the tags don't provide technical recommendation on where that guidance should land for the building officials for enforcement. You know, just if you have sleeping units, you'll have fire dampers required going into those for any penetrations into that rated construction. So there's a big ripple effect. And without that, I don't know if at the full council level, you'll get a clear understanding of the cost impact of the R4 without clear designation of whether it is a dwelling unit or not. So I wasn't, I wasn't pushing for that as part of the tags, because I thought it was going to be discussed. It could be discussed here at the BFP with a recommendation. But if it is going back to the tag, I would ask Todd, especially as the chair of that committee, if that is something that I can bring back in that discussion. I don't think we have a fire. I think Quinn is maybe our fire code committee member present, but that's my ask.
Todd?
Yeah, thank you, Ardell, and I think given, I think I'd be more comfortable personally with having another TAG member, another joint meeting, and just so we can have a very clear recommendation that officially passes through the BFP to the council. But in this case, let's just get everything aligned at that TAG level one more time, if everyone supports that.
We will schedule a meeting for next Wednesday, and we will send an invite to all fire code and building code technical advisory group members. I hope we will have a quorum for both groups, but even if we don't, we can have the discussion and staff can introduce the issue before the council on Friday.
Stoyan and Dustin, do we list that as an IBC tag meeting like we have in the past, or is invite the IFC?
I think will be a good idea if we call both groups and try to establish a quorum for both. Micah?
I have a question on another topic, so I don't want to intrude if we're not done with this one just yet on the R4. Sorry, Todd.
Quinn?
Oh, I support that. Go.
Yeah.
Okay. And Quinn, you have something on R4? Okay.
No, I was just gonna repeat what Stoyan was saying about not making it just an IBC tag, because the last time we did that, where we try to invite everybody, because it was IBC, that the IFC tag group members, some of them didn't show up. So we try to do, if we state it as both, then we'll get more participation from both groups.
Okay, hold on.
Thanks. I did want to also maybe discuss the opinion for 3203.3. I think the code official for Bellingham is on the call today, and I'm wondering if maybe they could get on and share some insight on kind of what the question is about and possibly what the situation is. And I know that Dustin sent a little more information and I haven't had enough time to review that, but it would be good to hear from the proponent or requester of that if we have time. Or if we could. I think we have time. So.
Yep, I'm here. I'm Sean Angeli, the building official up here in the city of Bellingham. And I kind of talked to Dustin this morning about this and kind of sent him some images of the proposal. And basically it's a podium style building, and we have some cantilevered floors. You can see there on the shared screen, extending beyond the property line. This is the street side. So these cantilevered floors extend out over the right of way. And they are, this particular one, they're about 13.5 feet above the sidewalk. And sorry, I don't have the code pulled up currently, but 32, give me just a second. So 3202.3.1, it talks about encroachments 8 feet above, 8 feet or more above in the right of way. And they're the elements that they're discussing are somewhat superficial and not as, major elements as what the proposal is, as far as these cantilevered floors and floor areas and exterior walls. So it's my interpretation, or I'm trying to get clarity to see if my interpretation is correct, that the elements that pertain to those projections should be somewhat superficial in nature. And I know, I don't think architectural elements are defined or a defined term. And so I'm just trying to get clarity to see if these floor systems are allowed in that, in that encroachment into the right of way. I do believe, the 3202.3.3 encroachments 15 feet or above are not limited. So I'm assuming that elements, building elements, major building elements such as cantilever floor systems or pedestrian walkways can extend beyond, beyond property lines and to possibly other buildings over roadways. But so I'm just trying, that's basically the gist of it. I'm trying to get clarity on those projections and what types of elements can project beyond the property line. You can see, so that the architect currently, if you scroll down to that first image right there, that's a previous build that has been built in the city. And we allowed that, and that it, I don't think we're obligated to repeat the same mistake, but I don't know if this is a mistake or not, but you can see that cantilevered floor, it's not an oriel window or a bay window. It's, a fairly significant portion of the building extending beyond the property line, which is back at the face of the building at the edge of the sidewalk where the building begins, the exterior wall. So I guess that would be one that has been built here. And then the illustration above that is the next proposal of something that another architect is proposing to use. And he pointed out that we have allowed it before, but now it was under another reviewer, and we're just looking at it and kind of, trying to understand if we made the right call in the first one, or if we need to change our ways for the second plan review. Let me know if I could be of further help or explaining anything.
Excellent. No, that's really helpful in hoping to read the answers that were developed and how that may or may not apply. And if we have to add anything to that answer. I think one of the things for me is going to be looking at the pictures you're providing, and does this section apply correctly? And do we have to apply other sections based on the definition of floor area in the building code? And those areas, you got looking like stacked decks here, and would that be considered floor area or a projection? So it's helpful. I think we need to do some additional time processing the request based on the information you're looking at here. So I'm not sure if we're providing you the correct answer based on the information you're providing now with this, as it applies to this specifically. Doesn't mean the interpretation or opinion is incorrect. It may just not apply correctly to your project.
Right. Yep. I mean, I can add maybe, if I can, some additional information. I talked with our Public Works, the assistant director there, and discussing, encroachments below that, that 15 feet, if there happens to be a utility main in front of that building under the sidewalk, and if they need to get in there, sometimes their equipment will, extend up to 13 feet. And if there's a projection of a floor, there that could possibly be a challenge for them to do any type of, civil work out there in the right of way. Whereas if it were a sign or something that is movable, not a major element of a building, then that wouldn't be a problem. They could coordinate that with the, the owner of the building and remedy it so they could do their work and then, reinstall that element. Whereas, a portion of the building that's going to be, a little bit more difficult in getting into those underground utilities in front of the building out in the right of way.
Thanks, Sean.
Quinn?
Yeah, I just want to point out something though, that architectural feature is somewhat defined in 3202.2.2. So you can reference that to go along with 3202.3.2. So there is a somewhat of a definition-ish.
Right, yes, no, I see that, and I guess my understanding with that would be, there's, I guess, columns and pilasters are fairly significant features, but everything else, bulk, and that they're more kind of features that you would see higher on facades, on kind of masonry type of features that aren't, floors extending beyond, they're more details with masonry type kind of features or ornate architectural elements.
What we have as an opinion, it's a basically staff opinion. Dustin did a good job researching this, but since this is a model code language, anybody who can provide a better interpretation is welcome to share their opinions. We wanted to have something to start the discussion, but you can tell in question 3 that even Dustin and I disagreed on something, and I'm not one of those that I didn't want to override him. We just wanted to show that there are different opinions, so we need to pay more attention to this request. So this all. Again, what you see here is not the final version of it. It's just a draft that is proposed for discussion purposes. You can see it on the website. It's posted. Anybody who can provide additional, again, opinion, feedback, information, you're welcome to do that. Micah?
I'll just jump in. Sean, I just want to say thanks for your patience on this. I know it was submitted to the council previously, and I kind of, or to the TAG or BFP previously, and I kind of said, hey, are we beginning to interpret base code language? There's a path for that. So we had to go through the council to verify if we actually wanted to start providing opinions on base code language and not stuff that we amend. So thanks for your patience on us working on this, and it'll still be a little more of a process, I think, as we probably will weigh in a little more heavily, especially based on the information you provided, to make sure we're getting you something accurate if it's project specific. Again, I think it's mostly correct in a general sense, but I don't know if it's going to be what you need specific to what you're seeking in that individual project.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know it's my pleasure. I mean, you guys are doing a great job. I love everything, that is being done at your level. One thing, just to touch base back on that 3202.2.2, the architectural features, those are elements that are limited to 12 inches that shall not project more than 12 inches. So those columns and pilasters, elements that are somewhat more permanent in nature, are pretty limited. So these floor systems that we're talking about, I think, again, are somewhat substantial, but project further out into the right of way. And on this particular project, the proposal, I've already gone over, I've done a review with the Public Works Director, just to kind of explain what our needs are. And he's approved, that it's okay if the floor system is projecting on that. So we're going to allow this probably build the way that you're seeing that image. But it would just be nice to have some clarity, going down the road, so we don't have all these, large projections and, for future builds, here in Bellingham.
And Sean, earlier today, when we were talking on the phone, you mentioned the flying walkways that go across the streets in certain places that we see sometimes. I'd be curious how this section applies to those.
Right, like, so pedestrian walkways, right? I've seen those I think there's a few in Seattle. You'll see them, fly over the street, connecting two buildings, affording, pedestrian movement between structures. So I know, that they're around, and we haven't had any proposed locally. We have up on Western Washington, there is some, but again, it's over private property, not over the right of way. So I don't know we haven't crossed that bridge yet on projections or elements above 15 feet,
Angela?
Yeah, so I mean, pedestrian walkways are specifically addressed at 15 feet or more above grade. They're allowed. That's 3202.3.4. And that's part of where I agreed with the opinion on the first two, that those were both no, and sorry, Angela helped, plan review supervisor for Kirkland. And so I agreed that, per se, we wouldn't allow those encroachments of floor area below 15 feet. I think that the sections above for encroachments 8 feet or more, or from 8 to 0, those list out very specific things that are allowed to encroach, and they're minimal encroachments. And then basically you get to 15 and it's just like, go for it, because they're out of the way. You're not going to impede anything. And as long as, the first in the scoping, it says, this code shall not allow you to, provisions shall not be construed to permit the violation of other laws or ordinances regulating the use or occupancy of public property. So that's where, if your city's ordinances regulated that and said, no, we aren't going to allow those projections for these reasons, then this code couldn't override that. But as it's written just like this, I think it would have to be 15 feet or more above grade. And then we'd kind of be like, yeah, go for it. As long as you're not, going over the street, I think then we'd look at it again. But over the sidewalk and into the right of way, it'd have to be 15. But that's my opinion.
Right. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Angela. That makes sense. That's kind of what we were thinking as well, as far as the 8 to 15 and then 15 on. So just to reiterate, you guys wouldn't be okay with that proposal if it were under 15 feet, having those floors extended beyond?
No, not that second floor. I would say it would be the third floor would be able to extend, but that second story, no. But as long as the third story is hitting at 15, then I'd allow those, but not that lower one where, someone can basically reach up and, touch it and do things. And I don't know that that's even the issue, but it's just, yeah, I think that the code, it specifically, it talks about awnings, canopies, marquees, and signs, and then windows, balconies, architectural features, mechanical equipment. And then you jump to the 15 and it just says, sure, whatever, go for it. So that's where we would allow it, at the 15.
Quinn was the first one who raised his hand.
Yeah, so Quinn, here, I totally agree with Angela on this one. The only caveat I would probably recommend is maybe talking to your city attorney, because the thing that I would be concerned with is airspace ownership. So if these were condos and these were being sold, now now you're selling airspace of a portion of it into a public way. So in terms of legality, how does that work? So this is where I would recommend probably touching base with the city attorney on it.
Cordell?
Ditto, wouldn't allow it, and for floor area. And, you know, we did have one that we had, I think one of our reviewers had approved in error. And we did ask them to revise, we caught it at a point where we were able to ask them to revise the framing to make it more easily like removable. Again, it's floor area, so it's difficult to do that. But it was, it's exactly the reason that your public works person wants. It's how can we be able to use that space, and to, we have further language that wouldn't allow, that strikes out the above 15, but again, it's what does our public works need, and the ability to sell public access or use of public space is prohibited, right, for anything other than public use. So we'd say no to this proposal, and if we messed up, and then that was one mitigation we did try to get, was to make it removable framing. So it's cantilevered, but in a way that could be demolished without having to take down the whole that whole backspan.
Right, yes, no, I appreciate that. Okay, so back to the airspace. So would that not be the same as, say, if it were a balcony projecting? You're still, utilizing that space in the right of way. How is, an interior space any different than, say, a balcony? I guess I should direct that to Quinn.
Quinn, are you there?
That's all right, maybe he stepped away.
To add to the conversation, I can offer, what if we can schedule once per month this open discussion? I think I saw many benefits today without agenda and without any quorum. I guess folks like to share more if it's unofficial. But of course, I will discuss this with the council staff and with the council.
Okay, all right, yep, no, sounds good. Thank you, Stoyan, and thanks, Ardell and Micah. I appreciate all your guys' time.
Anytime, Sean. Are you going to be at the WABO meeting next week? We could put this on our code forum discussion there too.
I'm not available to go this time, unfortunately. I'll hit the next one.
All righty. Thanks, Sean.
Micah, I don't want to compete with the WABO forum.
You're not. This is a good location as well. So appreciate the time, and thanks for letting us get into that. And Sean, I appreciate your input. It's very helpful in helping either rewrite the opinion or approve it as written, either way. So the input's very helpful. So I appreciate your time.
Okay, yep. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Sean.
And everybody else's time that provided info.
For the technical advisory groups, we will send the invites for Wednesday morning, because in the afternoon we have other meetings. Dustin just remind me, and I hope we'll have the quorum and we'll have a good discussion next week. Well, there is a hand raised, and I'm really bad with names, so I didn't want to screw it up. So,
I just want to know if I could be added for the meeting when you guys continue the conversations about the modifying the definition for the child care and family homes.
If you send me an email, I can send you the meeting link, and you can definitely join the meeting. And they may call for you to speak if you like.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay, well, It wasn't a formal meeting, but so I don't think we need to adjourn it, but if we're done, then we will meet again next week. Yes, Micah?
Sorry, I'll never let you leave a meeting when we have time on the table. No, I'm kidding. Just a curiosity, are you going to, you or staff going to try to get a meeting invite for next week out today? That way we can get on the calendar
Yes.
as quickly as possible. That'd be great. I appreciate that.
We'll do it today. It will be a simple agenda again, R4 discussion. That's it. And again, I will keep it. I need to revise a little bit the council agenda, but it's not posted yet anyway. So we will have time to discuss this at the council meeting as well. Yes, Micah, feel free to speak without my permission.
Okay, well, I don't want to, step on those. And I know so my question is, do you want to provide a short legislative report since we're coming close to the end of the session? Or will you want to wait till the tag next week?
I was planning to have an agenda item related to the session. 80% of the bills that were affecting the State Building Code Council just died. We have only 8, and 2 of these 8, 2 or 3 are with high priority for the council. So this is what I want to concentrate on. Unfortunately, this year it was a busy session, but we didn't have a good success on the Ledge committee meeting. We had good discussions, but we had the quorum only twice. So I will have information for the council meeting, and Todd, he's been very active on this, and I'm sure he will have information to share as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll stop asking questions on the agenda today. Thanks.
Ken?
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot. I was looking at the last minute meeting minutes, and it mentioned that you thought that you might be able to get the by April 15th, the amendments posted, the insert pages. Is that still even a possibility by April 15th?
We can post 2 or 3, but I don't want to see our issue with the insert pages is that we post the insert pages and then we continue working, correcting errors and omissions, and then building departments print out the insert pages and they never go back and check. So they enforce something that is not there. So what we're trying to do now is to coordinate with the insert pages. We're working on errata, a package, and we are kind of coordinating with WABO and ICC. WABO and ICC are working on publishing the Washington codes. So we want to keep this consistent. We can post a few codes, but we don't want to create more issues with that.
Okay.
So to answer directly your question, we can partially comply with it, but the better option is to keep working and post a better version of the insert pages.
All right, understood. And then with regards to my off-cycle rule making process,
so for your off-cycle rule, again, we need to readopt the emergency that is currently in 2018. We will readopt it with a sunset date, July 1st or June 30th. And then we need to find a solution how to readopt again in 2021 fire code, because the 2021 fire code has different, well, I wouldn't say different format, but it's section renumbering and different text. This is a little difficult for us at the moment. But again, the emergency rule, we will readopt the emergency rule, and during this time, we'll keep working on the off-cycle rule, if this makes sense to you.
Yeah, I just didn't know if this agenda item that we're not getting to today, not the emergency, but just the off-cycle rule. Does it have to, the off-cycle changes to chapter 12, not the emergency rule, but the off-cycle changes, is it possible just to go to council with this and not through the BFP?
The plan for today was to tell the BFP that we will start working just to outline, you know, emergency readoption, another emergency readoption, and during this time we will be working on the off-cycle rule. But we haven't started yet working on this.
Okay, so you haven't started working on off-cycle rules even at all?
No, on this one, no.
Okay,
We
so that's
have-
where I was confused. I thought I was presenting all of the chapter 12 off-cycle rule proposed changes today.
Well, the plan was to make this introduction and start working on it. But again, the off-cycle rules and the emergency rules and the off-cycle rule, these are connected. Keep in mind that our codes are in WAC. I mean, I've said it several times, and we are required to comply with the Code Revisor's Office policies and procedures. So for the purposes of the Code Revisor's Office, they don't see 2018 fire code and 2021 fire code. They see a rule that is currently adopted and it's not effective yet. So there is a little bit extra work that we need to go through and figure out how we can file this emergency and off-cycle rules.
Okay, yeah, it didn't quite answer my question, but all right, thank you.
Okay, well, we will meet again next week then.
Okay, thank you. Still
Thank you.
productive. Appreciate it.
Thank you for attending, and it wasn't a formal meeting, but it was good information.
Helpful.
Thanks,
So-
folks.